This Dreo ChefMaker claims that it can cook proteins perfectly without the attention needed to cook in a pan and in the oven. So in this video, we're gonna cook chicken breast, we're gonna cook some salmon, and we're gonna cook some steak, and we're gonna see how this machine does compared to our normal cooking methods. But enough talking about it, let's get cooking.
If you're lucky enough to be watching this video the day that I posted it, Dreo is offering a massive 45% off on the Dreo ChefMaker. There's a link in the description. If you're watching it after, they're still giving a discount. It's just not as much. So now let's start to marinate this chicken with some olive oil, a little bit of pickle juice, some low-sodium soy sauce. We're going to throw in some hot sauce. I got the truff, so I'm going to throw that in there. A little bit of my base seasoning, which is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. There's a link to the video recipe in the description. We're also going to throw in a little bit of smoked paprika for that smoky flavor and that nice red color. And the last ingredient that's going to go in this marinade is going to be some dried Italian herbs. So now I'm going to give this a mix with my hands, and I'm going to let it sit for about 5-10 minutes and let it marinate. Now let's get to the ChefMaker and let's throw these inside the basket. These are two massive chicken breasts, so we're going to put these inside the basket. And one of the cool features of this machine, it has a thermometer probe, so we're going to insert that into the thickest part of the chicken, so as soon as it hits the perfect temperature, this machine will know and stop cooking. One of the really cool features that this machine has is this water reservoir, so it uses steam technology to cook the proteins before it sears them off. So now we're going to go through our display. We're going to choose chicken, and we're going to choose chicken breast. It has a feature for every single piece of protein you could possibly think of. So now we're going to check it out as it's cooking. You can see that it's starting to get some really nice brown color. But how this machine works, it first brings the meat up to temperature and then puts a sear on the outside. So once this thing says it's done, we're going to open up the basket and look at this beautiful chicken. It's got wonderful color on the outside of it. This is very similar to what I would do in the oven or on a pan, and you can see that that beautiful color is flavor. So this thing really did a great job with this. Let's cut into it and see what it tastes like.
On quick visual inspection, this chicken from the outside looks really awesome. Let's cut inside and let's see what the doneness is. This chicken actually looks wonderfully perfectly cooked. I think this chicken is cooked really well. It's a little juicy on the inside. The nice color on the outside is coming through in flavor. The biggest issue with chicken breast is most people tend to either undercook and overcook it. And I would say that this is perfectly cooked where it's not overcooked and dry, and it's perfectly juicy and not raw on the inside. You can see that we have perfect white meat chicken all the way. It's got a little bit of shimmer in it, not super dry. The chicken surely hit the mark. Now let's check out the salmon.
So now let's make some salmon. The salmon is a really simple marinade. It's kind of similar to what we just did with the chicken, but it's more simple than that. So we're going to throw on some olive oil, some of my base seasoning. You can see how useful this stuff is. If you don't have some, make some. And a little bit of smoked paprika. We're also going to throw in a little bit of the Italian seasoning. And that's it for this. We're going to give this a quick mix, and it's going to go right inside the Dreo ChefMaker basket. And just like when we put the chicken in, we spaced it out really nicely, and we're going to insert the thermometer probe right into the thickest part of the salmon. So as soon as that hits temperature, this machine will know that this fish is done. So just like before, we're going to go through the menu. We're going to search for seafood. Then we're going to find our salmon steaks. Boom. And now this machine knows exactly what protein is in here and how to cook it. So let's check on it as it's cooking. You can see this is getting a really nice, wonderful sear on the outside. It looks absolutely fantastic. Really nice color, just like the chicken. So we're going to take our fish spatula. We're going to be really careful to remove this from the basket without damaging the fish, because once fish is cooked, it's always very delicate. You want to treat it as such. We're going to sprinkle on a little bit of parsley for that nice pop of color. And 2 lemon wedges to squeeze on right before we eat. This fish looks really, really good, and I'm super excited to try it. Once again, I'm very impressed. This looks eerily similar to the salmon I made in the cast iron pan and then threw in the broiler.
The outside of the salmon looks really nice. This looks very similar to the salmon I made in the cast iron pan and then threw in the broiler. Before we cut into it, let's put a little lemon juice right on the top, bring out some of those flavors. And now let's check out what this looks like on the inside. And you can see that this salmon is really well done. It's still got a little bit of shimmer on the inside, so it's not hammered and dry. The cook on this is spectacular. The outside is nice and crispy. The inside is perfectly cooked and moist. You saw in my crispy salmon video, I like the skin. The skin on this is not very crispy, so that'd probably be the one edge to doing this inside the pan, but the doneness of this salmon is perfect. So if you're not worried about the crispiness of the skin, this is a really, really nicely cooked salmon.
And now the ultimate test for this little machine, we're gonna check out some of these New York strips. So I got these thick cut, boneless New York strips. I thought it would be the perfect thing to cook in the machine. We're going to use some of this ghee from Carrington Farms. I like using ghee because ghee gives it that really nice butter flavor. It's got a little higher smoke point than regular butter, and it's also spreadable at room temperature, and you don't got to store it in the fridge. So we're going to use this butter knife, and we're going to spread the ghee over the top and the sides of these steaks, and we're going to make sure that we're getting it all over. This is also going to be as a binder for the salt and the pepper that we're going to put on right after. The great thing about cooking steaks is they really don't need much. A little bit of fat, some salt and pepper, and these things are good. So now up nice and high, we're going to sprinkle some kosher salt on and some fresh ground black pepper. And I'm making sure that I'm going to season these heavily because these are nice thick pieces of meat and the seasoning can't go inside, so we got to keep the seasoning on the outside. So I'm going to pat in the seasoning, and I'm going to roll the edges of the meat into the extra seasoning that collected on the paper. And now these are going to go inside the basket. Right into the center of the steak, we're going to insert the thermometer probe to make sure when this thing hits the perfect medium rare, the machine will know. Now we're going to insert the basket into the ChefMaker. We're going to make sure that the water is all filled up, because we just made the chicken and the salmon, and it definitely used the water. So now I'm going to use the menu to search for beef, and then we're going to pick out New York strip. I love that it has all different features for different cuts, because there's probably some type of programming in this that decides how it's going to cook it based upon what type of meat it is. We're going to choose the sous vide method, which seems to be the premier way to make these steaks. The time is a little long, but we're not thinking about time here. We're actually getting time because we don't have to pay attention to this as it's cooking. So when this machine said it was done, we pulled out the basket, and look at these beautiful steaks. I can't believe the color on the outside of these. This looks really similar to what we could do inside of a pan. Honestly, I was expecting some gray piece of meat to get pulled out of here, but these things got some really nice color. And remember, color is flavor, people, so if you're not getting color on your proteins, you're missing out on big-time flavor, especially with beef. Seared beef is one of the best flavors ever.
This is the best steak I've ever seen come out of a machine. This thing's got some decent color to it. The fat looks pretty rendered. I'm really excited to cut into it and to see what the inside looks like. But for coming out of an air fryer or whatever this thing is called, this thing looks fantastic. So now let's check out the doneness. So we're looking for a nice pink center, medium rare. I am really impressed. That medium rare on the inside of this steak looks absolutely amazing. That is a really, really nice medium rare. I love how the sous vide action of this machine cooked this. The temperature is spot on. The outside's got some decent sear to it, but the taste test tells all. So again, like, look at this beautiful color on this steak. It's absolutely perfect. I am absolutely speechless. I can't believe this came out of a machine, and it was very set it and forget it. We put the butter and the seasoning on the outside. We sent it in there. It did take a little long to do, but it was all inside the machine without any hands on. I didn't even have to watch the time. It told me when it was done. This steak is really, really good. if you're hesitant to cook, and you don't have to cook for a lot of people, you saw this machine take down the chicken, the salmon, and now this steak, which is arguably the hardest thing to make out of a machine because it requires a lot of skill. This thing aced them all. I highly recommend the Dreo ChefMaker for everyone out there who, again, isn't cooking in large quantities and you want to make sure that you're hitting your proteins, and it requires very, very little hands-on time. So I'm going to give a 2 thumbs up for this machine right here. If you like this video, please check out some of my other videos. I'll post those right there. I'll see you there. Thank you.